Artemis 2 mission of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration concludes with successful splashdown and completion of historic moon journey. The Orion spacecraft carrying the four-member crew of the Artemis 2 mission of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of San Diego yesterday evening. This event marked the triumphant and successful completion of humanity's first crewed journey around the moon in more than 50 years. The mission ended exactly as planned, with a picture-perfect re-entry and parachute-assisted landing at approximately 8:07 in the evening Eastern Time. It brought the astronauts back to Earth after a nearly 10-day voyage that covered hundreds of thousands of miles and took them farther from our planet than any humans have traveled in the modern era. The crew, consisting of Commander Reed Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, mission specialist Christina Cook, and Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, emerged from the capsule in good health and high spirits. Recovery teams from the United States Navy aboard the ship John P. Murtha quickly assisted the astronauts after the spacecraft touched down gently in the ocean waters. Officials from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration described the entire flight as an unqualified success that met every major objective. According to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the footage and data from the Artemis 2 mission represent authentic human achievement captured in real time. There was no computer-generated imagery involved, and no parts of the moon mission were fake. One of the most charming and widely shared aspects of the journey was the amount of time the crew appeared to have for lighthearted moments while flying around the moon. Video clips released by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration showed the astronauts goofing around in the weightless environment of the Orion spacecraft. They were playfully tossing an iPhone back and forth and sharing floating snacks as they bonded as a team during the lunar flyby. These genuine, unscripted scenes highlighted the human side of deep space exploration and reminded viewers around the world that even on a groundbreaking mission, astronauts remain relatable people who enjoy simple fun. It does seem rather surprising to see so much time available for carefree goofing around on this first crewed mission around the moon in more than 50 years. Especially considering the high stakes and the reality that there would be no quick rescue possible if anything had gone seriously wrong far from Earth. One might have thought a tighter schedule with less room for leisure would be the norm on such a historic and potentially risky endeavor. Yet the crew found those relaxed moments anyway. Even with the enormous budget of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration and the support of some of the world's brightest high-tech geniuses, the mission was not entirely free of everyday technical hiccups. Early in the flight, the crew reported minor problems with the spacecraft's advanced toilet system, known officially as the Universal Waste Management System. There were issues with the urine collection fan jamming and a frozen waste vent line that required creative troubleshooting, such as rotating the spacecraft to warm things up using sunlight. The astronauts handled the situation with good humor and relied on backup procedures. It is rather amusing to picture high-level space engineers troubleshooting what amounts to a plumbing problem while circling the moon, much like dealing with a clogged drain back home on Earth. Mission controllers confirmed the toilet returned to full operation after a short time. Adding another layer of relatable comedy, the astronauts also ran into a familiar frustration with their email system. Commander Reed Wiseman radioed Mission Control to report that he had two separate installations of the Microsoft Outlook email program on his device, and neither one was working properly. He asked the ground team to remotely access the computer to fix it, exactly as many people do during a typical workday on Earth. Ground engineers resolved the Outlook and email problems quickly. It is funny and ironic that even while flying around the moon, the crew could not escape the universal annoyance of technology acting up. So even with all the budget and high-tech geniuses at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, they still have problems with email in outer space, just like down here on Earth. Throughout the mission, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration emphasized that the crew and ground teams responded professionally to each minor challenge using built-in redundancies. There were no emergencies and no critical failures. Overall, everything went basically as good as one could imagine, considering the crew was flying around the moon. The spacecraft performed admirably during the lunar flyby and delivered stunning live views that captivated audiences worldwide. The successful return demonstrates the growing reliability of the Orion spacecraft and sets the stage for future Artemis missions. In summary, the Artemis II mission stands as a landmark achievement in human space exploration. It proved that the National Aeronautics and Space Administration and its international partners can send a crew safely around the Moon and return them home with an overwhelmingly positive outcome. The mix of major milestones, crew camaraderie during their goofing around sessions, and the ability to laugh off small issues like the toilet troubles and Outlook email glitches made the mission feel both groundbreaking and refreshingly human. The safe splashdown and the crew's return mark the end of one journey and the beginning of a new chapter in our adventure among the stars.